What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb also known as NFL Caleb 22. This is Betting the NFL Week number 17. And as always, here with me, my co-host, Derek Weatherly, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, it's another week. Another round of bets to be made. We had football, NFL this past Sunday, or excuse me, Monday with Christmas and the holiday. Not something you see too often. Traditionally in the past was kind of something the NFL tended to avoid, but they've thrown that logic aside, and we got a whole weekend of football. Thursday games, Saturday games, Sunday games, Monday. Like, those are the kind of weeks that remind you of the COVID times when you had games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just going week round. But
Yeah.
it was definitely an enjoyable round of holidays and round of football this past week.
Yeah, so the weeks tick down. Just seems like we're getting a lot more football, which it always means more opportunities to make money, and that is what we do on this show. We try to help you guys win money. Um, we'll say what's up to Brandon Mazel. Thanks for showing up, man. Really appreciate it. Um, all right. Before we get into week number 17 and our five best bets of the week, we have to look back at what happened in the previous week. Before we do that, we'll say what's up to my dad. What's going on? Um, and we'll look back at week number 16. And what happened there is the favorites, bad week for the favorites, 6-9-1 against the spread. Overall, they are 118, 109, and 13. Home teams uh, slightly had the edge, 8-7-1 against the spread. Overall, they're still lacking 112, 115, and 13 overall. Home dogs had pretty impressive week, 4-2-1 against the spread. But the over and unders, we're seeing in recent weeks the overs be hitting a lot, and we get it again here. We see it again here: 10 overs, 5 unders, and overall, still the unders mostly throughout the season have had a big advantage. But these past few weeks, we've seen a lot of points being scored, and we've seen a lot more unders. I mean, a lot more overs than we had through most of the season.
Yeah, some of that may be due to teams possibly chasing wins towards the end of games as playoff contentions, being on the line. We're starting to reach that end of the season where a loss means you're not gonna see the playoffs, even though you're still 2-3 weeks away or however long it may be until the season officially wraps up. Um, so that means taking more risks. That means pushing the ball more when you're behind, and depending on the scenario, you might see a defense more lax because you're talking about a two-score lead, a double-digit lead, something of that effect. And so giving up at least a score or a touchdown isn't going to change the outcome, though it may make the scoreboard look a little bit prettier to the audience. Um, so, I think that's a possibility to some degree, but also, one matchup where I think I don't think people expected the over to hit in the fashion that it did. But looking at the Carolina Green Bay game, where you didn't necessarily have two teams where you expected the offenses to go off, and here we see a total that finished in the 60s and had a potential for overtime, which would have even pushed it up, maybe even into the 70s, depending on how an overtime period might play out. Uh, so yeah, I think in some of these scenarios, as we start seeing teams it, run into these situations where either it's elimination or survive to the next week and keep your playoff hopes alive. Those teams that don't make it, they're still going to be taking those chances, while the game's still going, because you play to win the game, as we've all heard before. But yeah, so I think there are some advantages for overs to come in, uh, and I think, like I said, that's kind of what we saw this week.
All right, we'll say what's up to Adelia. How's it going? Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think in the last couple of weeks, I think we can see that trend continue of overs hitting more often than the unders. Um, but we have to see, we have to look out for that. Um, Now we will get to the biggest upset of the week, and that came in on Christmas Day. The Raiders plus 11 and a half points at the Kansas City Chiefs. They win it 20-14. And only on Christmas you can get a Christmas miracle like this to overcome an 11 and a half point spread. That's huge. But that's what occurred on Christmas Day. Uh, and we've seen it throughout the seasons. The Chiefs just have problems on offense. Specifically in the passing game, and specifically with the receivers not being able to catch the ball from Patrick Mahomes, and it showed up here again. It started to kind of manifest itself to where Patrick Mahomes seems inaccurate, like he was missing balls, and that's just the type of frustration that he's been getting recently. And Mahomes, threw a really horrible pick six. And that's kind of what got the Raiders the lead. They got the interception for a touchdown. They got the fumble for a touchdown. The Raiders defense really showed up in this game, and they had to, because the Raiders offense, at least passing wise, wasn't really doing much, because O'Connell didn't complete a pass after the first quarter. Did not complete a pass after the first quarter, and they still win it. He threw for 9 for 21 for 62 yards, and they beat Patrick Mahomes. That is crazy. Basically, they just ran it all day with Zamir White. He had 145 yards. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much all they had to do, is run the ball, because the Raiders defense was giving Mahomes all types of problems all day long. And they get a huge victory that keeps them, somewhat in the playoff hunt. That keeps them even in the divisional. Um, you know, they could even get the division, depending if these Chiefs problems continue, and the Raiders keep winning. Anything can happen. But this is another example of these big spreads in a divisional game going against the favorite. It always favors usually it favors the underdog in these types of situations.
Yeah, I mean, people have heard us talk about it before, even outside of divisional games, just how challenging taking on some of these double digit spreads can be, even when you're talking about, one of the best teams in the league. To look at this season, for example, there's been a number of instances where you could have probably jumped on the 49ers against a double digit spread and come out on the winning side. you know, in past years, this was something you could, more take on with a team like the Chiefs. However, this year we have clearly seen, through the miscues and just simple mistakes, things we're not accustomed to seeing out of the Chiefs and in Kansas City. Um, we see that snowball effect, and one thing after another. It's not, you see as you mentioned, the frustration building out of Patrick Mahomes, because even in a lot of instances, we're talking about drops or receivers making mental mistakes. Uh, so it almost makes you wonder if they made the right choice keeping Kelsey versus Hill. And I'm not sure if they could, if they didn't necessarily let go of Eric Bieniemy, even though he didn't go out and get a head coaching job. It's not necessarily a lateral move, given some of the talk that is out there around him. Now, if he feels like, coming down to Carolina, want to come coach, the Panthers, I'm not going to complain. He can come get that, that first head coach shot down here. But, yeah, there just seems like there is a lot going wrong in Kansas City right now. And if nothing else, maybe Chiefs fans will blame Taylor Swift. I'm just saying, because, if they would have kept Hill and got rid of Kelsey, they wouldn't have to deal with Taylor Swift right now.
It's a
They'd
good
have
point.
a potential MVP in the conversation. wide receiver plus Patrick Mahomes plus defense and all that. But so yeah, and also how crazy is it that in an NFL game in 2023, the team literally didn't throw the ball the last 3 quarters of the game? Now, the best explanation that I saw for this was Kevin O'Connell was forged in Big Ten West football, and anybody that follows college football knows Big Ten West football takes pride in running the ball and punting. They play field position. They will win a game 3-0 and be damn proud about it. Just look at any Iowa game. Any Iowa game. I mean, doesn't you don't even have to follow college football. Just go look at their scores, people. But yes, that's insane. And they won the game, that proof that if you find something that's working in a matchup, you stick with it, and that's what the Raiders did. They leaned on that defense, was able to put up 2 defensive scores, and I'd love to see a statistic on it, but I wouldn't be shocked if somebody said that a team that has 2 defensive scores in a game wins 95% of the time. I mean, I would honestly believe that right now, possibly even closer to 100%, because you're talking about a 14-point swing on something, and never mind the momentum swing, the emotional effect it can have. Seeing a defense score multiple times on your offense, it's supposed to be the other way around, people. But yeah, I think it's very interesting to see what's going on in Kansas City right now. Not that it'll lead to firings or anything like that, but we're not seeing the typical Chiefs that we've been accustomed to over the past, half a decade.
Yeah. All right. Next, we got the bad beat of the week, and this was not just a bad beat. This was a very hurtful beat for me, at least. Not betting wise, because I didn't bet on the game, because I kind of saw what was going to happen. But but still a bad beat nonetheless. Cowboys +1 at the Miami Dolphins. They lose it 20-22, and I feel just as bad as all those who did bet the Cowboys, whether you had them on the money line or getting the 1 point. Uh, definitely hurts. Definitely hurts losing uh, just by one point. Uh, that's always hurtful. Um, you know, and it was just like it was watching a slow death. You know, you just kept getting cut by all those damn field goals. 5 field goals in total, just slowly killing you. Cowboys took the lead with a little bit of over 3 minutes left in the game, where all they needed to make is one and stop from the fifth and final game-winning field goal to take place, and they just could not do it. The same type of stuff that keeps coming up in these Cowboys games. Um, causing a penalty, getting a face mask, getting a whole chunk of yards so they get down the field, not being able to stop the run. So just it's the same old problems that we've been having continue to show up, and that's what led to us losing, and that is what led to this 2 point loss, and ultimately being the bad beat of the week.
I was riding with Miami, so I can't. Bad beat. Yeah, I take it all day. The way my season been running, I was talking about it. I had the number at 1.5. Should have waited on that Dallas money to come in just to get it closer to even. But that's another conversation. You know, if it had been one, it'd likely probably ended in a push for me, which didn't occur this week. Holy crap! How? Don't know. But yes, riding with those Dolphins minus the 1.5. Said it last week that the game could possibly end on a field goal and cover that spread. And damn it if I wasn't on the money. So from where I was sitting, it was feeling pretty good, even though I was sick. But apparently I was running so hot this weekend, had to have a fever to go along with it.
All right. Now we get into our own records of the week, and I had one of the worst, probably the worst week that I've had this season. It's probably the worst betting week of the season for me. Just terrible. I was just completely awful. They get the one win, and that was obviously my only and best pick of the week, which was the Lions -3 at the Minnesota Vikings. They win it 30-24. After a strong bounce back after that Broncos game, I thought that just continued to build, and they did it again on the to the Vikings, who had obviously their problems at quarterback, and Nick Mullins just had a horrible day, uh, throwing 4 interceptions. But even with all of that, they still got even the Lions were up 17-7, but the Vikings actually took the lead midway through the game, 21-17. But then the Lions again kicked it into high gear, scored 2 straight touchdowns, and covered that spread. And it really does continue to show Jared Goff just takes care of the ball, doesn't turn it over. Lions will have success, and they did it again here against a divisional rival on the road. So we can continue to bet the Lions if they need to play like this.
Yeah, like I said, I was running hot this past week, went 4-1. Ironically, I know it was my best week on the season. Dodged that push, might have had a couple weeks where maybe saw a positive week, maybe instead of 3-2-1 or something like that, had been 4 and whatever. But yeah, 4-1, you know, was able to get the Rams win, even though they tried to give it away at the end as far as against the spread, but snuck in with the win on Thursday Night Football. Now, did get caught by the Brownies getting overcooked because the Steelers, they were able to get to them. And, I think for the first time, really, we saw a talented defense get after, I'm not sure if he's technically a rookie, but, basically a rookie when it comes to playing the quarterback position in the NFL and just dealing with that pressure and being, um, you know, in those moments where these guys are coming after you and they're gonna get to you. And we saw him go out there and pretty much lay an egg. I believe it was he had at least three turnover interceptions in the game. Um, a lot of garbage time yardage in the passing game. Uh, Kind of inflating those stats. I do think he had almost 400 yards. I know over 300 yards in the
Yeah.
game, but again, when you don't put up that many points, it doesn't matter how many passing yards you're putting up, or because you're not converting it into points, and thus you're not doing anything. But that's that Kirk Cousins effect we talk about, where you're not getting the points, you're not getting the W, but oh hey, you threw it for 400 yards. What a game, But like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I was riding with the Dolphins in that game. Small. There's a reason small spreads are the way they are, and that's because it can end on a field goal, and we've seen it in a number of games this year. It happens every year. You got good teams, and when good teams face off, you get these close games, and so it can be a challenge playing those skinny spreads. Uh, but I said it last week. A field goal could cover the spread, and it played out that way. And I just happened to find myself on the right side to finish off a good week.
Okay. And my worst pick was the Broncos -7.5 against the Patriots, and they lose it in the final moments there with the field goal. This one was just a complete surprise to me. I just did not expect the Patriots to have much fight left in them. Obviously, they did. Broncos offense, struggled so much that Sean Payton decided to bench Russell Wilson for this upcoming week. Again, whatever they're playing this week. But yeah, they struggled that bad. Obviously, Bailey Zappi had a nice game. He did enough to set them up in that game win field goal. And I just really just did not understand as a 7.5 point favorite, with the playoffs on the line, I can go out there and just be this bad against a bad 3-win Bailey Zappi led Patriots team with no weapons. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I thought this one I probably was most confident that the Broncos would just go out there and stomp them out, but that was not the case. And yeah, this was just a cap to what just a terrible week of betting for me.
Yeah, I don't think too many people expected for this Broncos game to turn out the way it did. Um, you know, eh, the I'm sure a lot of Patriots fans didn't want that game to turn out the way it did because it probably affected their draft status as far as where they're going to be picking rather greatly. Um, but yeah, I mean, nobody on uh this offense scares you, or you don't really. There's not a legitimate threat on this offense, and the quarterback play that we have seen is just downright awful. Whether it's been Bailey Zappi or McCorkle, and so you know I'm like I said, I'm sure Patriots fans would have rather seen a loss in this situation. I think it might just be a question of how long into the offseason do they wait before announcing that Bill Belichick is either going to another team or going to be retiring or something of that nature, because you're starting to hear rumblings now, and we're not talking rumors or things of that nature. Uh, you know, Maybe nothing happens, but it is sure ugly in New England right now. And for the Denver to go in there and lay an egg in the fashion that they did, people were talking about how they turned things around. The playoffs were still in reach, maybe a slim possibility, but in reach nonetheless. And you can just kiss all that goodbye and throw it right out the window. Um, so, I mean, what's going on in Denver has been it's been a mess all season, and seems like it's going to continue like that. So it should be an interesting off season for Denver Broncos fans, and we'll find out. You know, is Russell around come next year? I mean, technically, Sean Payton is under contract, but we know how quickly owners are, willing to cut ties with a coach and not care about how much money, that contract's guaranteed, so they're getting the money anyway. And a lot of these owners have shown they're not too concerned about paying someone that is no longer a member of their organization.
Right. We'll say what's up to Ferris. He's a dollar bills, y'all, making money. Um, and he also says Denver management made shady. Yeah. I mean, they definitely got some issues over there. I think I have to figure out. But betting wise, yeah, don't bet on them because didn't turn out well. All right, but before we get into our best bets of the week, we like to help you guys out. So if you guys can help us out by subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button, hitting the notification bell, so you can get notified when we go live, because we do go live a lot on this channel for multiple different sports and also for NFL and good friends better rivals. So definitely hit that. Also, if you really want to help us out, you can join our Patreon. The link is in the description down below, and you can join whichever tier that suits you. If you can do all that, we would definitely appreciate it. But now we will get into our NFL Week 17 best bets. And I'll let you start off this week because you have a great week. So why not? Why not give a winner when the first go?
Yes, let's see if I can keep things rolling. You know, started last week off with the win, going to the Thursday night game, and I'm gonna be going right back to this Thursday night matchup as we got the Browns taking on the Jets. The Browns come in as a 7.5 point favorite, and honestly, not sure why that number's that low, but I'll be glad to get behind that. We've seen this resurgence by Flacco at this point is not a joke. Like, it's legitimate. The Browns are looking at like a possible, I don't want to say lock for a wild card spot, but we're gonna see the Browns in the playoffs most likely. And the the dismay with this Jets team, it's right up there with what we've seen out of the Broncos. Yes, it's a variety of different issues going on there, but just when they seem to have it figured out, the rug gets pulled out from under their feet, whether it be their own doing or not. Um, I mean, honestly, I won't lie. This year, you kind of had to feel for Jets fans at the beginning of the season because you finally actually maybe had some legitimate hope, and you got a whole 4 snaps in before Rodgers goes down, and just the trickle effect that followed. So with everything that's going on, with the Jets, I don't think they're going to be able to put anything together offensively. Cleveland's defense is one of the top defenses in the league and has proven that throughout the entire season. They got things figured out on the offensive side of the ball with Flacco. So, a 7 point spread. I think if Joe Flacco had been with the team since preseason, this would have been a, 9.5, 10 point spread, if not potentially higher, because this Jets offense, in my opinion, isn't going to go out and score. I mean, you could even look to potentially fade whatever their team total, Jets team total, looking at the under, because I don't. I could honestly see this team not the Jets offense not getting more than 10, 13 points in this game, and I'm pretty sure every book out there probably has their team total slightly higher than that, maybe around 17, somewhere in that range. But to go lower than 14, something like that, I don't think the books would do that. And as I said, me personally, I don't see this scoring more than 3 times, 2 touchdowns against this defense, not happening.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like the Browns defense is like even they're so good that even when Joe Flacco makes those bad throws and throws and picks, they can still hold off the opponent's offense. And as long as Joe Flacco's making the good plays, like the defense will be good enough to keep them in the game. And so then when Joe Flacco makes the good plays that he does, that's how they end up winning the game. At least that's what it's been you've been seeing for this past few weeks with Joe Flacco at quarterback. So yeah, I like them, but it's just Thursday night games. I don't know, weird stuff happens on those days, so it's not one of my picks. But what is one of my picks? My first pick is the Rams -4.5 at the New York Giants. Sorry about that, Bears. You know your Giants aren't very good and they suck. Um, but the Rams really hot right now, with winning 5 out of the last 6 games, and the one loss that they did have was taking what might be the best team in the league, the Baltimore Ravens, to overtime. Pretty much the only NFC team to really give the Ravens problems. Um, and then and they are coming into this game with extra rest. They played on Thursday night. The Giants played on Monday afternoon. So they're getting almost a half more week rest than the Giants are. Also, Kyron Williams has been really great for the Rams, and this helping this make this one of the better running teams in the league. And that's where the Giants are really bad in. They cannot stop the run. They're ranked 29th in rushing defense. So I like Kyron Williams to just run all over that Giants D. looked and then looks like Tom Cutler's story is now over with them starting Tyrod Taylor, and I don't really expect much out of him either. And it doesn't really make a difference of who's really going out there for the Giants. This offensive line doesn't allow any quarterback to really do much for them because they can't protect them. I mean, this offensive line is terrible. They get and with the Aaron Donald out there, yeah, it's not going to be a good day for Tyrod Taylor either. So Rams 5-0 against the spread last 5 games, and one of the better overall teams against the spread throughout the season. 9-5-1 have a winning record, so definitely like the Rams to cover a 4.5 point spread.
Oh, I'm riding with this exact same game now. The book I got it's 5.5, but yes, if they put up 4.5, I'd smash that button quicker. Yes, as you said, the Rams are one of the better teams. The season for them started out a bit rough with injuries, and since they've been able to get everybody healthy and with the emergence of Williams in the backfield, it's added a wrinkle that they didn't have before. A lot of people thought this team coming into the season was basically a one-trick pony with Cooper Kupp, and that has not been the case. As they got I, I believe it's the rookie of the year offensively, Puka Nakua over at wide receiver position. Um, from my understanding, basically he's become their number 2 behind Cooper Kupp. Um, as we said, Williams in the backfield. Uh, this offense has definitely started clicking. They, a couple weeks ago, were on the verge of upsetting the Baltimore Ravens, who have shown to be the best. Me personally, I would say the best team in the NFL, but regardless, one of the best teams in the NFL, and they went out there and went toe to toe with them and damn near pulled off the victory. So, this is not a team to overlook. And maybe the news of Taylor starting over Cutlass brought it down a couple points. Very public teams, that public money coming in. A New York-based teams, you get a lot. You'll see it happen with teams like the Cowboys, but uh, I don't know who's betting on the Giants to win this, but yeah, give me the Rams minus whatever, especially if it's under 7 points.
All right. My next pick then will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home minus 2.5 versus the New Orleans Saints. The Bucks need to keep that division lead, and by winning this game, that definitely will separate themselves from both the Falcons and the Saints. While the Saints are just kind of hanging on by a thread, they still got the wild card, they still got the division just barely hanging on, and I think they're just ready to be put out of their misery, and I think the Buccaneers are going to do that. We saw more of the same from the Saints on that Thursday night. Very inconsistent offense, having a lot of trouble scoring. And then on the other side, Baker and the Bucks are looking really, really good. They won 4 straight games, with the last one in a big one versus the Jaguars. He's having a lot of success, just kind of throwing it up to Mike Evans, letting him do his thing, and that allows Rashad White to get a really good run game going, which those two that combination has been a really good winning formula for them, and I think that continues here. You know, I don't. I see this. Like I said, I see just the same problems with the Saints' offense being very inconsistent going into this game. So 2.5 points. I'll definitely lay that. Bucks 10-5 at spread this season. Saints just 2-5 against the spread in the last 7 games. It's definitely like the Bucks here.
Yet another game we on the same side. I was riding with the Bucks. I got the same number minus 2.5. Never mind the fact that yes, the Bucks have the past month been playing the type of football that you need to be playing if you want to win your division. It's that simple. Regardless of what the records look like, you go out and win 4 or 5 games in a row. You're doing what you need to win the division. You're playing well. and you haven't been seeing play out like that out of the Saints. Uh, the scoreboard didn't really say how the game played out last week against the Rams for the Saints. They were pretty much out of the picture the entire game. Um, Even if you were holding a ticket with the spread around 6.5, 7, I believe, you weren't even thinking about a sweat until like the last 2 minutes of the game because it was an 8-point game. They still had to go and score a touchdown or something to that effect. So we said it at the beginning of the season. I have no clue why people were calling for the Saints team to win the division, to be a threat in the playoffs and things of that nature. Um,
I mean, to be fair, we didn't think the Bucks were going to do anything either.
yeah, yes. But there's a big difference in saying, hey, y'all kind of look like trash. Y'all might be trash. And hey, y'all see that trash? That trash going to be gold. Just watch. It's going to be gold. Yeah, that gold over there looking like it need to be polished or something. But yeah, there's just, in my opinion, there's too much going wrong in New Orleans um, in this matchup. You got a Bucks team that's hot, playing, as I said, they're playing the type of football that you need to play to win your division. They're going out there trying to win the division. They pretty much have control of their destiny as far as that route. So yeah, Bucks minus 2.5. Now, I will say I know there's one pick in my bag that I will bet money you don't have.
Okay, well, we'll have to find out. But I will get to my third pick of the week, and that is the Steelers at the Seahawks. I'm taking the Seahawks minus 3.5. I think last week was an anomaly for the Steelers. I don't think anybody really expected a blowout victory against the Bengals, but good for them. But they did. No, I mean nobody thought that for a good reason because if you watch this offense for the past few weeks or just throughout the season, it has been god awful, and obviously, I just chalk it up to the backup quarterback. We've seen it many times throughout the season. When they put in the backup quarterback for the first time, you see a spark in the offense, and the teams usually do better. But that definitely wears off, and I think that's going to fizzle out very quickly going into this week against the Seahawks. Seahawks who have tough fought victory over the Titans this past week, but Geno Smith was back in the lineup, and I just think he'll just continue to get settled in. Um, and we've seen them that they can win a tight game because they have done that in these past 2 weeks against the Eagles and the Titans. So I like them get another tight win, but still be able to cover that 3.5 points. Um, as they will be at home. And Seattle's a tough place to play. Steelers just 2-4 against the spread last 6 games. Seahawks 4-1-1 in the last 6. So I like the Seahawks laying the points here.
I did look at this matchup. I was leaning towards the Seahawks in this matchup. A another team. I think you could say this about most teams in the NFL this season, but a bit of a rough season. Just with the way things are shaking out. But it's hard to back the Steelers offense in any sort of position to place a bet on them. I think, short of their defense going, not necessarily winning the game for them, but it's going to take their defense keeping them in the game to even present the opportunity to get a win. While it's hard to say what we saw out of Rudolph was a fluke because you went out there with your starter and did less week after week. And even after Canada was gone, you saw, less production out of your second string and your first string than you did your third string. Like, so when it comes to this offense, there's just zero consistency. And when it comes to the production side, that makes it very difficult to try and place a bet on them in any fashion. Even if you're not talking about them winning the game outright, covering any sort of spread, it makes that extremely difficult. And then you tie in the fact, I believe that they're playing in Seattle, right? Yes.
Right.
You know, one of the few teams out there that you can legitimately say has a home field advantage. When you have crowds that try and do things like show up on seismic readings, and things like that, that might be a home field advantage. It might be loud in there. So, uh all those things given, if I was to make a bet on this game, like I said, I'd be leaning towards Seattle on the covering the spread. What was it? 3.5.
3.5, yes.
I'd like to see that, see that more at 3, 2.5. Hate to see it finish on a field goal and get killed by that hook, but yeah, I'd have to lean Seattle minus 3.5 in that game. Now going into my next pick, we got the Green Bay Packers going into Minnesota, and I gotta say, I feel like the wrong team is favored here because we saw Green Bay come off a win. Yes, you could call it an ugly win for Green Bay, but they won. The Vikings lost. The Vikings have played like the worst team this season. I'd have to double check the records, but I'm pretty sure their record, at minimum, the records are the same. If not, Vikings have the worst record of the two. And yet we see this team a 2-point favorite against the Green Bay Packers. Give me the Packers +2, because while I may not be the biggest supporter of Jordan Love, they have been on a little bit of a roll the past few weeks, and the Vikings have, been headed the opposite direction. No way in hell that I'm backing Nick Mullins. Now, not to say that he goes out there and plays badly. I'm not going to pretend that I have confidence that he can go out there and put up, or go out there and do what is needed to bring in the W. Um, this being said, if you find a matchup where you think the wrong team is favored or the number is wrong, those are the things you look for to, to make a play. So yeah, give me Green Bay +2 because I think they're going to win outright.
Well, we got a red alert because I got the Green Bay Packers +2 at the Minnesota Vikings. Um, yeah, I mean, pretty much for all the same reasons. I feel the same way as you did. I do think that the wrong team's favorite. I don't know how you can say after what the Vikings have shown under Nick Mullins that they should be favored. Um, and just the turmoil at this quarterback position in general with all the injuries that they have. I just think that they just can't overcome it. Um, to get themselves into the playoffs. Packers, like you said, coming off an area victory against the Panthers, but they were able to get Aaron Jones back healthy, and he looked healthy in that game, running for 127 yards, and I like that to help them win this game if he continues to run like that. And I'm not worried about the Vikings' home field advantage because they just lost last week against the divisional rival. So I expect that to happen this week. And the Vikings are a terrible, terrible, terrible home team against the spread. They are 2-8 in the last 10 games at home against spread. So definitely don't like them in this situation. Like the Packers to getting the points. Yeah, red alert.
See, that's why I saved this one for last because we got an issue if you got this one in your bag because I'm pretty sure that I may have faded this team throughout the year, but I'm almost 1,000% sure that I have not placed a bet on them to win outright or cover the spread. And we going down to Jacksonville. Jaguars are a 6.5 point favorite. Give me the Panthers. Give me the points. And I take it even a step further. I think there's a legitimate chance that in this game, the Panthers can walk away from this game with the upset. So if you want to go, sprinkle a little bit on that, last I saw it at, I think it was about plus 230, but over, plus 200, definitely a nice little number to play on the money line if you feel if that's your fancy. But with there, there's no questions. There's plenty of questions around. Do we see Trevor Lawrence? And even if we see him, will he won't be 100%. What level of play can we expect from him? Uh, while the defense for the Panthers has not been very good, it above par at times, but I do think if you're talking about a backup quarterback, they have a good enough defense to make problems. And if anything, the Green Bay game showed that the offense actually found a way to click and get on the same page. And when those things happen, they have the ability to move the ball. Now, yes, they've gone through plenty of struggles all year, but I think if there's ever been a time throughout this season when the Panthers could say they were playing at a high point, now would be that point, and they're taking on a Jaguars team that has been awful at home, 2-5, and that's with Trevor Lawrence. So there you have it. Panthers plus 6.5.
Well, you would be wrong because I got the no. What it was, it actually was in it was actually one of the considerations that I wrote down. Um, I just can't get there because the Panthers they're just bad. They're just bad team. But I like the number. I did that. That's why I wrote it down because I like that 6 points against a Jaguars team that we seen they've been playing pretty bad lately. We just saw them lose last week. Um, and the Panthers, they played well against the Packers. I didn't expect them to have much fight left in them after playing so bad throughout the season. But they gave the Packers a tough go. So that's why it definitely actually was a consideration. But ultimately, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But I can see where you were thinking on that one. But my last and final pick of the week is the 49ers minus 13 points at the Washington Commanders. Uh, and I've said this multiple times throughout the season, multiple times throughout all the shows we've done. Um, I always like a good team coming off an embarrassing loss on national television to come out the next week and just really put it on their opponent, whoever the opponent might be, because they want to erase that bad, embarrassing loss from the memory and show everybody that what they're really made of. And that opponent just happens to be the hapless Washington Commanders, who have been pretty terrible throughout the season, have a pretty bad secondary. So it should help Brock Purdy to erase that 4 interception game from his memory. And this Commanders team just lost to Trevor Siemian in the New York Jets. Like, my God, you can't get much worse than that. So bad they are starting Jacoby Brissett in this game, and I mean, I ain't expecting too much from Mr. Brissett there. I like the 49ers to get right in this game. I think the Commanders are just the perfect team to get right against. Um, but I think I've never liked to bet a point spread this high. Um, but it's not a divisional game, so you got that on my side. But I think this 13-point spread is warranted to just seeing the difference in talent between these two teams. It's just miles difference. Washington is just 1 for the last 5 games against the spread. 0-5-1 at against the spread at home this season. Terrible covering team against the spread at home. So definitely like the 49ers to cover and win by 14 at least.
Yes. clearly not on this game, was one that I did look at. There are a few big spreads out there this week. Decided to stay off, not mess with any of the big spreads, but this is definitely a matchup where, of course the number is warranted, but we could easily see the 49ers go out there and, win this game by 30 points. Let's be real. That just the talent level, as you said, coming off an embarrassing loss with the coaching staff they have, I would thoroughly expect them to come out with a game script against Washington. Uh, One, to get the run game going, and two, get just those natural motions going, get you in that groove with Purdy, because Purdy has shown throughout the season, he may not, he's not a great quarterback. I think that's where the embellishments have taken things a little too far. Is he a game manager? Yes. At times, has he been an excellent game manager? Yes. And when you do things like be an excellent game manager, that's just as good. It translates very well. So you know, you get that rhythm established. Kind of like in boxing. You get that rhythm, you get moving, you start utilizing and working that game plan. It just takes a little bit of time, and I don't think that Washington can do much to keep up with the 49ers. Bit of a revenge game for Chase Young. Um, Now, one thing I do think is very interesting. Ron Rivera was very big and very public about backing Sam Howell. Uh, Makes sense. I mean, as a coach, you kind of at times have to put your foot in the sand when it comes to certain roster decisions, debates more or less. And Ron Rivera has shown in the past he's got no problem being the type of head coach where he'll take the brunt of that media for his players if it means doing so. And so the move to Jacoby Brissett makes me wonder, is this more led by Eric Bieniemy? Because we've all known that for the past year or two, Ron Rivera's been on the hot seat and might have already been fired in Washington, if not for the whole just ownership mess that was going on for the years there with Dan Snyder, him being gone, new ownership group, new regime. You know, is this coming from Ron Rivera? Have we seen, is this basically the writings on the wall? Rivera, he'll get to finish out the season, but maybe won't be with the team, and we see Bieniemy being elevated into the head coaching position. I don't necessarily want to see that. He's one of those guys. He can come right on down to Carolina. We got a nice little, nice vacancy. We got this, really good young prime quarterback. I mean, if you're going to go somewhere where you can't necessarily pick your guy, it helps to have a talented young guy that hasn't been just beaten down by the NFL. So those are a couple things about that matchup that stands out to me, because the 49ers are going to go out there and just kick their ass. Let's be real about it. But, I mean, that's what it is. The 49ers just got shown up by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in a game which they were never really competitive, and a lot of that had to do with the early interceptions. So, yeah, expect the 49ers to go out here and make a statement on the Commanders' face.
All right. Now, that is all the bets for week number 17. We'll recap it one time for y'all. We do have red alert, and what red alert means, we got three bets that are the same, three or more bets that are the same. But I got the Rams minus 4.5 on the road against the New York Giants. I got the Bucks at home minus 2.5 versus the Saints. I had the Seahawks at home minus 3.5 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have the Green Bay Packers +2 on the road at the Minnesota Vikings. And I have the 49ers minus 13 on the road at the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, going back to that Thursday night game, got Cleveland minus 7.5 as they take on the Jets. As my man said, it's red alert. It's gonna make for an interesting week of football. Got Packers +2. Wrong team favored there. Got the Bucks on a winning streak, -2.5. The number ain't big enough to keep me off of it there. Got the Rams -5.5 as they're likely to beat up on the leftovers from Tommy Cutlass, aka the New York Giants. And like I said, probably the first time that I have backed my Panthers to at least win on the spread all season long. Panthers +6.5.
All right, that is week 17 bets, and that is the show. So you can tell where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yeah, y'all can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube and on Twitter X at Bets.
You can find me at NFLK.2 on Instagram and Twitter/X. You can find me on this channel every Friday at 3 o'clock, doing Good Friends, Better Rivals with my co-host Ferris Muthana, talking Cowboys, talking Giants, talking about the both our losses this week. Cowboys lose to the Dolphins, and we'll go more in depth about how I felt about that game. While Ferris will talk about the Giants' loss to forget who they lost to, but he'll talk about that loss as well. So please tune in for that, and then we'll be here every single week, all the way up to the Super Bowl, trying to make you guys money. Whether you go with our picks or against our picks, doesn't really matter as long as you guys are making money. That's what matters. So we'll see you all next week. And like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.